But hey, guys, introduce yourselves. How long have you been here on Stocktwits? Some of your background. What do you like to do?
Yeah, Nick here. I think I joined Stocktwits kind of like shortly after Twitter, really. I mean, that was back credit crisis days, and like it was just kind of a natural migration from like some chat rooms that I had found along with like the Yahoo message boards. I think the Dan Zanger chat was the only one that was really around back then, but yeah, it's been a hoot. I've learned a lot and have found it to be a blast. Just really just sharing ideas. I could give really, two shits about people's P&L and that kind of stuff. Like I care more about the ideas and yeah, the alpha, I guess.
And your P&L, obviously.
I mean, my P&L is the only P&L that matters, really.
What, David Tepper's doesn't matter? Drunken Miller's doesn't matter?
I
Or
mean,
what
they do
about
in the sense
Warren
that
Buffett?
they provide aspiration, an aspiration to be somewhere.
Aspiration that you can go back to the 60s and make the money they made, right?
Yeah.
Um, 60s, 70s, 80s. Anyway, GPaisa here, joined Stocktwits in 2013, was a frequenter of prior message boards known as the Yahoo message boards, which were a mess. And when I found Stocktwits about 12 years ago, got an opportunity to be consolidated in thoughts and forced me to think about how I look at things. I love the markets. People talk about fundamentals and macro. I am a technical setup guy with a little bit of fundamentals to it, if it makes sense and stuff like that. But I fundamentally believe the markets are a conversation of supply and demand. So if the supply is there, the demand will come. And if the demand's not there, the supply will get obliterated. So that's how I approach things, and love talking about the markets. We've been doing this for a few years now, and officially first day on Stocktwits. And thank you to you guys for giving us an opportunity to chat and just talk markets. So let's get started.
Shout out to the Stocktwits fam for putting us here, for giving us a space, and really looking forward to it. Bags here, Ben. I started on Stocktwits around 2018, not too long after I'd taken over my own retirement accounts and started investing my own money. Somewhere along the line, I think this is what's really cool about our story is the three of us found each other right here on Stocktwits, and we've been partners in crime on a lot of things. We share a lot of ideas together, and we've been doing our podcast now for the past 3+ years, and we're excited to be on this new platform. Hey, we always start our show with the chart on screen, and GP, you know where I'm going with this. We are going to take a look at the cues. Yesterday to be fair, you called a bottom here. A little bit of a pop, up 1.2% right now on the day for the cues. This blue box, for anybody who's new, this was the range that GP said we've been in for a while, and we're outside of that range now. GP, what's going on? You like it here? Is this just a little relief rally, or is this a bigger thing?
Yeah, so to me, it's a bigger thing for higher, not lower, right? So I think it's you've been in a range for a long time. You have this kind of move underneath, and there's no follow through. There's a lot of wicks here. I think the Qs and the spies are consolidating multi years of gains. A lot of people are really frustrated by it because thing things are getting obliterated underneath, and fair enough, right? We've been through this cycle how many times over the last 6 years, right? Like things just get absolutely destroyed. So I understand the overall frustration, but markets go higher based off pessimism, not optimism. So I really like what's going on here, and it's not a today or yesterday or this week conversation, but it's a where are we going from here? And so I posted a chart, I think it was early 2023, talked about it in 2022. we are setting up for a move towards SPX 7700. Is that going to happen next month? No, that's not. That's where I think we're going, and this is all part of that setup. You get the corrections, the 10% corrections within the range, but I'm seeing a lot of the charts look like I'm not a big Wyckoff guy, but a lot of them look like very, very similar to the 2020 time frame. You had this monster spring down, right? Stocks got obliterated during COVID, 50, 60, 70% in a matter of weeks. You've seen that in a lot of names. I was talking to Nick about this before we started, which was Restoration Hardware, right? 460 to 200 plus, right? Within the megaphone pattern, similar to the COVID kind of pattern here. Bottom of the range, this sets up. This is a spring setup to go higher. There's not a lot of volume to confirm the downside movement here either. So that's where I think it's going higher. I think you focus on individual names, as we kind of normally do anyway, but more so now than you do indices as much, right? That will figure its stuff out. If you are focusing on indices, I'd be looking at the small caps. Coming into next week, we have FOMC too, but it's not about FOMC, but just overall kind of Wyckoff theory. It's a throwback from the double top. Can call it a cup and handle, can call it in different ways to look at it, but I like the setups here going forward.
Hey, Nick,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that GP brought up the Wyckoff. You mentioned that yesterday on our show. But looking at the Qs right now, I mean, we did get a little bit of easing inflation data this morning, but we're still a 0.5% off of basically the high or the near the open. You still kind of feeling
I
what's
I
happening here?
I kind of feel like we're gonna churn a little bit, and I can't help but think we're gonna get one more leg lower. Like even if we hold like 460, I still think we kind of get one more push. However that plays out, I'm not really quite sure. I think there's a good chance this 470. I don't want to say there's a good chance that it holds, but I think you should be sized for it to take one leg lower. It's kind of I don't know. The
So
range that I was
right now you
watching
think
was. Say that again.
right now you think it's more of just a relief rally?
Yeah, just we're putting in a high volume low. Um, the range that I was really watching was like 500 to 540, and then if you just kind of extend that out, when the 500 level got taken out, the measured move just based on that range would be 560.
On
And
SPY.
so, and so we on the Q. Yeah, I'm sorry, 460 on the Qs.
Got it.
Um, and we haven't quite got there yet. So that's kind of what leads me to believe that we might get a little bit of a bounce here, yeah, and then roll over one more time.
Yeah. When we talked about this a couple weeks ago, I liked this 470 area, but I was looking around that 460, 457, 458 is where my line is there, that little pink line.
Yeah.
And then the bottom of that range would be around 446. If that were to happen, I'm not so sure. I'm still kind of the wait and see how this goes. I don't think this is going to be a trampoline directly out of here. I mean, GP, you're all saying it's a spring, and that would sound very V bottomish if that were to happen, correct?
In certain names, for sure. Like I said, I think the indices, like especially the major ones, S&P and Qs, are probably going to be in a chop session. I'm more focused on, I guess, the smaller cap, mid cap area uh, is what I'd be focusing on. I think, the fangs and the megas do what they do. The only mega that has the potential, I think, of having a V bottom is obviously Tesla. Um, it's back. Yeah. So I think individual names, and I'd be looking in the small cap to mid cap space. If the FOMC decides that they're going to cut rates or talk dovish while keeping them steady, I think those are probably things to be paying attention to next week from a macro perspective. You also have the typical February OPEX to March OPEX period ending next week. So yeah, we can chop here and go down and stuff like that. But VIX expirations also next week. There's a lot of things that are kind of setting up that we can go higher, but in the meantime we can chop for the next couple days.
The chat's on fire right now. I've got it pulled up on stocktwits.com. You know, just looking at the chat right now, we're roughly 55% bullish, 44% bearish right now. And I don't know. I think that's pretty emblematic. It feels like there's a lot of people who are uh, there's three camps. It feels like either you're bearish, you're bullish, or you're stuck somewhere in between, and that's sort of the give and take that I'm sensing right now. Checking out Stocktwits too. Hey Nick, is there any setups out there that you're currently looking at or like, or are you
I was kind of with
upside?
G. I think my two favorites are probably Tesla and Broadcom. Honestly, like I think ABGO looks explosive right here, and then kind of same thing with in line with what GP had mentioned. I think Tesla's really the only one that has some like power to really rip out of here. But I don't know. I was asking GP actually that before the show too, kind of like where he thought the money was kind of moving around to, and honestly, like there's nothing that I find to be, I don't know, too wildly exciting.
So I posted a few charts on Twitter as well. Uh, the moves here in Affirm and Roblox, um, those look like back tests of stage one breakouts. I look, you can see the weekly already kind of shaping here in Roblox. I know it's only Wednesday, but these are multi-year bases that are getting retested and holding for now. Same thing and obviously we talked about Roblox yesterday too. I would love an opportunity for 47, but this might be it. And you're looking at a firm, same thing, like solid earnings, solid everything got sold back to the top of the base. And if we're looking at Wyckoff, it's it's a throwback, right? It's a retest. Forget Wyckoff, it's just a retest of the top of the range. And if the top of the range holds, that typically is a bullish cycle, right? Moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. Roblox. Yeah,
Yeah,
Roblox looks great, I
the
think.
chat's popping off right now. It's good to see all the folks. Rachel, what's up? Duzio in the house. No stock. Great to see you guys. Big Greeny, what's up, my man? Hey, you guys just hit us with questions. You know how we roll. If you got anything, we'll try to get to it. Hey, GP, as you were mentioning, you had a bunch of charts. I did see your AMD one from yesterday. You want to break that down for me?
Yeah. So if you don't have the cloud on here, but it was a cloud chart. It's a monthly chart. It is
Oh, I
literally
can pull up
almost.
the Ichimoku.
Yeah, why not? I don't like the way they look on TradingView, so I use the one on Thinkorswim. It's cleaner to me. But let's see how it looks on here. Maybe I'm just
Monthly
using the
view.
wrong one. Yeah, it doesn't really give you the cloud or anything, right? Whatever that is.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. It just, yeah. Anyway, it's very similar setups on the monthly to the 2022 sell-off, right? And so if you're looking at AMD here, when I first started talking about it, it was like the 120s, but if you saw me talk about it, I was buying in three batches, right? So the 120s was first of them. Talked about this yesterday as well. 95, 90 to 95 was the second one. I don't like buying the 90s. I'd rather wait for a little bit more confirmation. So, and then the next batch is around the 65, 70 level, and kind of wait and see how things go. That's how I approach things. I know it's an area that I want to get long, so I want to buy in thirds. But it's literally almost the same setup as the 2022 decline in the middle of an AI boom, in the middle of chips and going nuts and all that other stuff. Just spent 12 months going straight down. Not a lot of volume on this downside move either, so I don't see the confirmation I'd like to see. I know a lot of people don't use volume. I do personally. So I like the setup here. if it repeats, you're looking at potentially a double from here in the next, I don't know, year or so, let's say, right? And then you can see more chop, as you can see on the chart. We're flagged for what, 5-6 months there, right into that green moving average that you have on your chart, Ben. So same kind of concept here. Let's see if it actually works. But I like the possibilities here, and you get yourself an opportunity to define your risk much better than it was when you're in the 150s, 160s, etc.
Yeah, that green moving average there is the monthly 20. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would love, as a long-term holder of AMD, I would love for it to hold here in this area and not go further down. And any pop higher after this would be lovely. And I suggest you go check out GP's charts that he shared specifically on AMD, because I know a lot of people are interested in AMD. Nick, you brought up AVGO. This is a name that we talked about yesterday, that has shown more relative strength than most of the chips. Care to dive in a little bit about what you see here, what you like here, or how you'd trade it?
It's wedging into the 200 day. I still really don't like how the short-term moving averages are rolling over, but I think if you're throwing on a starter here, you're just risking the 200 day. So it makes a new low, you're out. Um, I'd still be waiting for another pivot to set up, though, if I was looking to leg into it. I don't have a position on currently. The other spot that I would be watching, though, is like that like the gap low. There at like 210. So if it can reclaim those two pivot lows, like kind of here at 196 and then 210, and you see on like on an intraday, like let's take a 10 or 15-minute chart, you can see price really holding and defending those spots. Like I think those would be worth risking against if you're looking to add into it. But I just like the slow grind into the 200 day is really kind of what I like about it.
I threw that little range bar here for you, Nick.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that pretty much what you want to see hold or break out, or if it breaks down, that's your exit because the 200's right there?
Yeah, the 200 is I mean, the 200 is trending up. The market's just not really rewarding a whole lot of fresh risk. That's why I'm saying, like, if you're gonna have a position on, throw a starter on, and then just risk the 200 day. Because if we do roll over and we do leg lower, we don't know how exactly it's gonna bottom out. Like, are we gonna put in like an inverse head and shoulders? Or are we just gonna continue to chop? Like, it's just not worth putting on a full position, and is all I'm saying. So.
GP, you got another name?
NVIDIA looks pretty
Yeah,
decently.
I do. So we have, if you guys are on Stocktwits, there's a earnings tab in the top right corner. It's a great place to find all your consolidated earnings. You can listen to earnings calls from there. Was just checking this morning. Adobe's on the list tonight. I think Adobe has an option to be the reason where software can start getting a bid here. If you're looking at, Nick, this is one of your favorites. This is a 3-month tight setup right off the 78-month moving average.
Whoa! I thought it was a 3WT, not a 3MT.
It's a 3T, right? So
Hey, we make the rules around here.
yeah. We always make the rules. But so you're looking at Adobe that's sitting here on a rising moving average on the monthly. 3 months we've closed within 1 to 2% of the closing price, and you have earnings tonight. It could be the spark that software needs to go higher here. Obviously, on the daily and weekly, it's not the greatest. So something to be paying attention to on earnings today. I think this is stuff that can catalyze the software segment or the sector.
Would you be interested in buying an earnings dip here?
I think if it breaks this area, you don't want to be long, right? That's this is a confluence of support. This is a confluence of It's that what is that, 440 level is where it broke out right around COVID time. So you're at this point where I think there's a lot of supply, a lot of support, a lot of demand that if it breaks this, I wouldn't want to be long. I'd be looking for that test all the way down to like the 275 area, right? So like the dip has to be a real dip then. And so no, I wouldn't be to answer your question in short form. No,
And you're not getting out in front of this before earnings, or are you?
no. It's something that caught my eye a couple days ago on the earnings portion of. I don't pay attention to earnings and all that other stuff, but I try to know what, especially the big software makers, know when the big ones are in play and what can change direction in names like, dude, if you look at some of the software names, they've been absolutely crushed. MongoDB, CRM, Team, lots of them have been crushed. So it's a good confluence of supports in this area that can change direction, especially into rising moving averages on a longer time frame.
Well, speaking of
Yeah,
earnings,
okay.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna throw it. Okay, OKTA and V have both are kind of like flirting with their stage one, stage two. Uh,
Okta.
yeah, just where I mean, just, again, kind of just if you're gonna mention team and whatnot, it's worth throwing those names on the list.
Well, one name that has greatly disappointed almost every earnings call as a position I hold that I've round tripped a few times is Sentinel One. Sentinel One's coming up on earnings today, and after the bell, you can check out that earnings call along with Adobe right here on Stocktwits. So you know what I'll be doing from 4 to 4:45 ish. Seeing how I'm going to be able to buy more dip potentially. I like the cybersecurity sector. It's one of the sectors that I personally have sunk quite a bit of money in over the few years, and it's done me well. This is the name that I'm in currently. Like so many other names, the chart looks awful right now. But are we going to have a potential to get nibble at some more, or is this a an earnings reversal to the upside? So we'll have to see, and I'll be listening to that later here on Stocktwits. Nick, you brought up Okta. That's another cybersecurity name.
Yeah.
GP, do you think it's just going to be sector specific as far as software goes, or do you think some of these relative strength in some of the cybersecurity names like Crowd, Palo Alto, Okta, is that more of the theme?
No, I think it's a general kind of. I think software in general has been crushed, and I think you'll have like I don't think Bill is going to do well, and Bill's a software name. It's just it's it's not a great stock, right? They don't provide a great product. I've seen a lot of people complain about it, so I don't personally think Bill will do well. But you can see some of the names that have been setting up Twilio, Okta, and some of the bigger names not getting. So yeah, I think there's room. Crowd for me has been I will admit defeat at times, and Crowd is one of those. Technically, I've never understood it, so I don't talk about it because it's forbidden. It's off my list. But it's done well for everyone who's bought it long over the last couple of years. So,
Yeah, for
um,
sure. Rachel brought up Zscaler. I had this trend line drawn on there. God knows how long ago that's been put there. Um, but hey, if cyber names or um, the whole software cohort catches a bid, this could be pretty good.
yeah, that same. I posted the chart yesterday, Rachel, on Zscaler as well. It's showing relative strength as well. Compared to the markets. Everything else is down like 50% in 5 weeks, and not everything else, but a lot of things are. And Zscaler has been kind of holding up. So if the markets stabilize base and push higher, then these names are the ones you kind of have to pay attention to, that they're staying strong. So Zscaler is definitely on my list. I think where a lot of us are in a prove it mentality though.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so if you are taking risks, keep it tight, or use defined risk via options, or however whatever works for your strategy. Because like, yeah, we're in a prove it market, right? Prove it to me.
We got about 20 minutes left of the show. Time always flies when we get together, guys. I know we've hit a lot of stuff out there, but hey, if you guys in the chat have anything for us to look at or answer any questions you might have, now's your opportunity. Flood the chat. I see somebody in there with LUNR. I'm unfamiliar
Yeah.
with that sticker, but how about you,
I
Nick?
was gonna say, yeah, I like it here. I mean, all of those like highly speculative, like robotics, drones, robots, all that shit. Like basically everything, with the exception of quantum computing, so far is pretty much round tripped. They're like breakout. So I mean, you're still catching a falling knife here, but it's basically just retesting the breakout. So if you're risking like 6 on this, I would have no way of putting a target on it, but I definitely know where I would be. I'd consider myself wrong under 6, and I like it here.
So
Yeah,
the first question I have is, was this a SPAC?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, because
yeah,
it
it
at
wasn't
some
ten
point in
dollars.
2023 hit 136. So a lot of those SPAC names went bananas. So if it's SPAC, my general rule of thumb is not get involved at all.
No, this is like one of those ones that like kind of ran with like Serve, RDW, ASTS, like kind of all the like those $1 to $5 stocks that were all basically either drones or robots is kind of all.
It was a SPAC. It completed a
Oh, it
merger
was.
in yeah in 2023 when it hit 136 was when it completed the merger.
Oh, okay. I had no
Yeah.
idea.
So good luck to anyone who's investing in this,
Sure.
but I don't like SPACs. Some may work, but most haven't.
GP's got his wet blanket ready for any SPAC name that you might bring out.
There's some that have
Um,
worked. I think DraftKings is one that's worked, right? But they've been fairly miserable, right? SPACs are to me IPO light, right? There was something in their financials that couldn't let them go IPO market or quicker to market if they're trying to spin it. But um, just personally, not my. That was your froth level in 2021. So I don't want anything to do with the froth level names. There's enough anguish just holding Tesla.
One from our YouTube chat, MSTR. This has
Mister.
been a name that has been extremely volatile with Bitcoin. Nick, are you playing this one? Are you still watching it a little bit?
I mean, I have my lines drawn on it. Like this is in the kind of the Broadcom category where like I like how it's just been kind of a slow drift into the 200 day. Um, Being that the 200 day is caught up, like I feel more confident when price breaks out and the moving averages are caught up to price. I feel a lot more comfortable holding because I feel like price is going to expand. It's not going to pull back necessarily. Uh, and I think that's kind of how you would play. You're either buying here and you're risking the 200 day, so you're risking, let's just say 225, or just wait for 300 to break and buy 300. Like you could trade basically against either one. If you connect the trend lines, it's got a really nice looking wedge actually. That's pretty symmetrical. One, two, three, four. Yeah, that's basically 5 waves. It's double bottomed here off the 200 days. So I mean it's obviously going to follow Bitcoin, I think, is probably the best way to look at it. But I mean,
So
If
then
it breaks out,
that,
like it, that
Would
if it
you be
breaks out,
buying
it's
it off the
running right
200
back to
day?
500. What's that?
Would you be buying it off the 200 day if it came back in that low, or would you wait to see if
Um,
it
if we
bounced?
were in, if the market was hot, I would for sure. But
Because it
again,
hit the
back to
200 day yesterday, right?
yeah, I'm saying if the market was hot, I'd even chase it here. I just kind of again back to GP's point, like it's in a prove it mode, so it's like you're not being rewarded unless you're yeah. I guess maybe to answer your question, like if you bought the 200 day, so you were buying the low, sure, okay,
this is to me this is very similar to the pre-September setup in I would say Monster, but MicroStrategy. I'm not a fan of Sailor. When Bitcoin dips, he doesn't buy. He tries to sell you at the tops and stuff. So I'm not a huge fan of him. But chart wise, is that it kind of double bottomed in a rolling double bottom off the 200 day back in like August, September. Very similar setup on the monthly. It is month 4 inside the breakout, the second breakout confirmation candle, just like early last year. It's There was a lot of buying pressure and stuff, so it's going to consolidate. Wouldn't be surprised with another couple of months. The association to Bitcoin has broken over the last few months for sure between coin and MicroStrategy and Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin is not down in the 60s yet. Um, Both of these names have been lagging. So I don't know if that association reemerges and starts to push higher. I'm sure it will at some point. But right now, I like it. I think it still might need a few months more consolidation. Um, it doesn't look bad. But like basically, I think this is the first test of the 200 SMA, right, Ben?
Yep, you're right.
Daily?
Yep, I'm going there now.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we had a second test like a month or two later, back in September, August, September, right? Yeah. So August it tested first, it kind of curved top, and then came and retested. So the rolling 200 SMA test. Oh, actually it's the second test, right? Apparently, but I don't like it when it's so close together. So I think there's going to be a second one.
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, bang on last 2 days, and then last week and the week before. So we've actually had, well, technically 3 days in the last 2 weeks that it's bounced at the 200. So if you're playing the bounce, this is the bounce that you want to be the one, right? Usually the
Yeah.
first one is just sort of a test. The second one is the retest, and hopefully that's where you get some follow through.
Yeah, I think just typically for me, retests that happen within a day or two are still part of the same kind of strategy.
Yeah.
And so I would like to see it move higher from here, and the people who bought the 200 SMA start to sell out, and you get the retest of the 200 SMA again. That's what I would like to see. Not a huge fan of stuff that's double bottoming in 3 days, right? Like that's not
Yeah.
to me a double bottom. So just personal
Yeah, that's
preference. Everyone's got their own thing. So.
One of the sectors that came up in the chat, GP, you I think had put a position on recently, but the cruise lines, and I think you were in Norwegian. Is that right? Or are you still in Norwegian?
RCL, but no, no, I'm
Royal
not.
Caribbean.
Yeah. Royal Caribbean. That's if you ever want to look at a chart of how to respond to a pandemic, Royal Caribbean is the one you got to look at, right? Like for for what they faced during COVID to how they responded and management took over, this is your uh, this is your playbook, right? Like moving forward, if we decide to have another pandemic in 5 years, this is this is the strategy management should follow. Beautiful, beautiful chart, beautiful run. Even with all the dilution that's happened, they've just executed flawlessly. But I think it needs to rest, right? So
What do
that's
you think in 5 years? I mean, we've got measles and bird flu and everything going on right now. You think we're going to wait 5 years?
I'd like to wait 100 like 1912 again,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
can't pick and choose these things.
Fair.
But yeah, I think it just needs to rest, dude. I think we had this chat yesterday about a lot of names is like we kind of defined the last couple of years, but if you had bought a lot of these names over, and we've talked about this on our prior podcast quite a lot, which is stocks go through investor cycles, right? There's the guys who buy, or the groups that buy in the low ranges, the bottom fishers, right? They catch, let's say Palantir or SoFi or whatever, and they've had their 8 to 10x move. Those guys are selling out, and you want to see when they sell out that you see a secondary level of investors come in to say, hey, I actually think this has a lot more room higher, right? Which is your usual pullback, your spring setup that they talk about. I love incorporating human psychology in charts. It's just how I roll, and maybe it's my narrative and my bias or whatever you want to talk about. But the initial investors, a lot of these names have had 8 to 10x moves from the 2022 bottoms. So yeah, that's just how I see it. But I can talk about this stuff forever.
We got another name to look at here. Where'd it go? I just missed it. Oh, thoughts on PayPal and XYZ, formerly known as Square and Block. Any preference on which one I pull up?
No.
They both look like garbage to me. I mean, actually, I take that back. I'd buy. I don't mind PayPal here.
Why or why not?
PayPal here, you're buying you're buying a round trip kind of retest of like that stage one base. Sorry, I was just pulling up my weekly or my daily. Yeah, you're buying a retest, so it's like kind of not the best looking, but it is what it is.
So I think the opportunities in a lot of these fintechs exist in the smaller names. Personally, that's just me. I haven't seen in all the destruction that's happened in PayPal and Square. I still have yet to see any real accumulation. Have you guys seen a real accumulation in any of these names?
No.
And so
I
when
mean,
you
if I
have
were
these,
really bullish the market, I could make the case that, hey, maybe, just maybe.
I haven't. It's I've been talking about it since the bottom. Like, it's down 90% or 75% or whatever it is. Where are the people that are buying hand over fist? Even though I see everyone talking about it, right? Don't
Yeah.
see it. Still don't see it. And after they get their kind of bounces up, they're getting obliterated. Dude, what Square XYZ is down 50% here, and it could be just the stage one back test or top of the range retest. I just not interested until I see proper kind of like my signals for what I consider accumulation, right? And everyone has different ones. It's just what I'd like to see. If
Well, let's look at old XYZ since we're, you know, whistling by the grave of PayPal right here. Um, yeah, Nick, I think you're right. I think I do like the PayPal chart better.
Yeah, it's just you're buying a breakout retest, that's all.
I
Not
mean, look at
my
that. You know,
yeah.
if you bought in July of 2018, you are currently down. What is that? $5. Congratulations.
we are what 2/3 of the way through a lost decade in so many names.
And that's something that we talked about. What, a year and a half ago was a lost decade of gains in some of these names. I think in general we were talking about the stock market as a whole, but some of these names have really been, there's been the volatility, and if you traded it well, you did well. But again, if you bought this in 2018 and you held it through all of this, you are holding on to a 12% loss right now.
And visually, that looks like a monthly Head and Shoulders. Why does that look like a monthly Head and Shoulders? Not that I really trust the.
The quarterly chart looks better for you there, GP.
Yeah, still look. Where's the accumulation after all that selling? I still don't see it. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Just not my cup of tea. Small
By
caps.
better, I meant worse.
Small caps or mid cap fintech is where I'd probably be looking. I've talked about it a bunch, but Dave is another one that's in the space that you should be looking at. It's consolidating. Its big earnings move higher. It has it achieved the mandate of profitability that was required by the markets, in my opinion, in 2022 when the monetary policy shifted. So they have continued to show growth. It's consolidating and growing into its market cap. This is one name you'd probably want on your radar.
Hey, we've been on for almost 45 minutes, and we've brought 50. We bought a 0.5% gain here. So just like our old show, we're continuing to deliver alpha, right? Like, hey, we've been on 45 minutes and we're up half a percent. So can't be all that bad, I guess.
Yeah. What do I think
Um,
about gold and silver, Nick? Jesus, man. What is the conversation we had last year about gold
I
and
know,
silver?
but
Gold and silver was get long above 2,000, right? Once it takes that all-time high, you're going to ride a trend to at least 3,000, if not higher. So buy and hold strategy in this name. It's a monster breakout on so many different time frames.
I mean, look at silver though. Like silver looks
Yeah, but
phenomenal.
gold is the one, right? And silver could be
Sure.
the next one, and it could be metals in general. If you're looking at copper, Dr. Copper, the health of our economy, that we've talked about, I think last week on the metals in general are looking good, right? And it makes sense if we're moving towards a more versus a globalization strategy in the markets, nationalization. There's my bias checking in, but
I
yeah, I like it.
yeah.
But I don't think
while
you
we
break
only
it.
have about a minute left, we
Yeah.
did have one Jams who's been here in the chat ask about Nike. And I know we've done a lot of charts. We don't normally go through this many names, but it being our first show here on Stocktwits, what the hell? Let's throw Nike in before we got to peace out.
Can we not?
There's your
I
answer,
mean,
Jams.
the
Sorry.
monthly.
I think Starbucks looks better than Nike, and both got obliterated.
I think your risk, Jams, is that 60, that low bar from last month.
68,
Whatever it
right?
was. 68, 68. I mean, what I would do is if it didn't pop back after undercutting that, I would leave it alone and let it settle. That's just how I would play it if it were me and my money.
Yeah. And if for some reason you got to 60, I think that's I won't say no-brainer buy, but I think that's more of a solid buy.
Well, let's show the people why, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think 60 is that level where you can probably not mortgage the house, but put on a bit more risk, right?
You got that big volume shelf right there. That would be the spot, unless it were to be able to hold and bounce here. If it does, um, I mean, you can see what it's done here all along. We're on the monthly time frame, all along the 9 monthly, right? It's come out and it's failed, and it's failed, it's failed, it's failed, it's failed, it's failed all the way down. So you want to see it get over that and stay over that. So that would be your point of resistance.
Yeah. I think like why this chart, if you bring up the MACD on here, it's a
Bring up
weekly
the
bullish
MACD, he
MACD,
says.
so technically still in a bullish cycle, but you can see that it's still well under the zero mark, the kind of the zero line mark, right? Um, so I think that's just like it's got room to work itself out, right? And that may be with a tag of 60 or whatever, but it's got these things have to start aligning for to get better. So you have the larger moving averages on the weekly still pointing down while the shorter ones are pointing up. So technically that usually ends up in being resistance, right, versus being support. So, yeah, that's just kind of how I see it.
Awesome. Hey, this happens every time the three of us get together. We're out of time. And I got to say, this was a blast. We've been doing it. This is nothing new for the three of us, but doing it here on Stocktwits, getting the community really engaged and watching. And, these are people we interact with every day, right? I think it's fantastic. Shout out to the entire Stocktwits fam for having us. We really appreciate you guys. Any parting words, Nick?
Hey, be safe. Trade them well.
GP?
See how the markets do after expiration next week.
All right. That's going to be our show. We really, really appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll be back next week at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. That's going to be our slot right here on Stocktwits. We really can't wait to see you guys next time. Thanks.